you are a class rep and have not answered the questions yet, shame, shame. Shame, shame on you. Getting ready to advertise the debate more. I've got members of my lovely committee working on banners for that. And also I finalized the senior party flyers, so it should be pretty fun.
Texture locked out?
Our website's updated. I sent out email to student orgs to provide me their Facebook page and their logo so I can put that on the website. And then I updated everything else with elections package.
Alright. Administrative reports. Alan Zucker, do you have?
Yes, a couple things. This is a spring semester, so a couple things get started right away. I have some paper copies of the nomination forms for the Wesley Awards. So any of you who are new students, the Wesley Awards are awards which are given by the Board of Trustees to 2 undergraduate students, 1 graduate student, a faculty and staff member. They're basically awards that are, and you can see the criteria here, but it's really following in John Wesley's words and ideas of doing all the things you can for everybody you can, whenever you can, and so forth. You all have had faculty. You have all had, interactions with staff, and you know each other. So I please ask that you would nominate people to do this. The instructions are on here. Online, there's how to write a good nomination. But we really depend on students to nominate faculty and staff in particular. You, as a student, can nominate yourself. You must provide a letter of recommendation from a faculty or staff person if you do that. But let me pass these out, and I really hope that you'll spread the word and think about it. And this is like the first award that kind of begins the cycle, I think, through the second semester. Later in the semester, I'll be coming back. I'll be asking HUSC for a nominee to be on the Senior Speakers Committee. We start that, I think, in March, where we use your faculty and staff of the year from last year, and then a student from this group, a student from the Dean of Students, and a student from the Senior Alumni Group do tryouts and selection of the senior speaker for graduation. Okay? Any questions about the Wesley Awards by chance? All right, so I got 2 different ones, one for students and one for faculty and staff. So I'll start the students one this way, and I'll start the faculty and staff that way.
Awesome. So we have no unfinished business, so we're going to go into new business. And first thing on our agenda is we're going to have student leadership selection information. So Lacey and Mike, we're going to come down, including Taylor, talk about student leadership selection. So if you could just please introduce yourself, what do you guys do on campus, and what you do, Taylor, and just kind of ask a lot of questions, not only for yourself but also for your peers. So if you're interested, if you know a friend that's in any of these selections, leadership selections, ask for that.
Hi everyone, my name is Lacey Squire. I'm the coordinator of student activities. So I work in the Student Involvement Center up on the 3rd floor at Anderson. I primarily supervise Hamlin University Programming Board. I also manage the student activities van, so if you've ever used that, you've probably interacted with me. And I am also kind of the overseer of the student travel policy, which is relatively new. Yeah.
Okay, my name is Taylor, as I'm sure most of you know by now. I'm a student coordinator for the new student mentor program. So anything related to orientation and first year programs, whether that be to transfers, commuter student mentors, you can direct any of those questions to me, and then I can hopefully help you to the best of my knowledge. So.
And I'm Mike Earl. I'm an area coordinator for residential life over in Heights. You've heard from me before.
So the student leadership selection process is a collaboration among a few different offices. Mike can speak a little bit more about the historical context of the process, but basically we all the offices involved know that we're hiring for the 2015-2016 year, and we come together so that we can have a shared timeline and a somewhat shared process. Ultimately, what you'll do is submit one application, no matter how many of the 23 positions available you're interested in, and then you kind of deviate from there with interviews and different processes. But the one application, we think and hope it's much simpler for you to be able to submit that. Another aspect to the process is that many of the jobs are mutually exclusive, meaning you can't be an hands-on programming board, or you can't be an NSM and an RA. And so we share the process so that we can all kind of make decisions as a group, using, of course, your input as to what your priorities are to make sure you're placed in the best one of those positions possible. There are some exceptions with that.
There are exceptions. Ultimately, the process, what it used to be is we all had it differently. We all had our own applications. Students had to fill like 8 different applications. And there wasn't a lot of communication amongst the heads, so we decided to move this all together like 6 years ago, 7 years ago. It's been a while. And we hope that it's easier for students. We know it's easier for us. And we kind of go from there. As for what's mutually exclusive, most of them are. There's a few things that aren't. Rec tends to not be exclusive with. Like you can have rec alongside other things. Admissions positions. I think everything else is.
Well, summer conferences or summer RA or those?
Summer stuff, yes. Summer stuff is not exclusive with anything else because it happens during the summer as opposed to during the year. So if you want a job over the summer RA, summer conferences, you could apply for those and also apply for school year positions as well.
I guess just some other tips and tricks. So you'll note, do you want to scroll down to the different positions? So these are all of the different positions available. And although it's one application, what you'll do is you'll prioritize. You'll click which ones you're interested in. You'll answer a few open-ended kind of broad questions about your experience, what you believe mentorship is, why you think diversity is important, things like that. And then you'll have a question where it asks you to rank the things you said you were interested in. Be sure to be honest about that, but know that that doesn't impede you. If you say you want to be an NSM first, that doesn't impede you from doing well in your, HUPD interview. One thing that I would advise you to do, though, is to really think about why you want each one of those positions. It's not that you want a leadership position, it's that you want to mentor first-year students. It's not that you want a leadership position, it's that you are interested in event programming and want to build community or want to be a resource to students in the residence halls. So make sure you're constructing answers and you have answers for each of the positions you were talking about, and not things like, I want to be an NSM because it's only in the fall. That might be true, but I challenge you to think of something a little bit more meaningful when you're talking about why you're interested in a position, and really do your research about the positions and think of why that interests you.
Absolutely. And we talked to you today not only because you're all student leaders and we'd love to have you in a variety of these positions, but also for the people that you work with, you interact with, things like that. The word out there, because we're always looking for amazing students, and we know all of you meet that criteria, and we know that you have friends and people that you know that meet that criteria. So spread the word. Really appreciate that.
Yeah. Applications are due this Friday at 5 o'clock. This Friday at 5 o'clock. It's a Google form. There are about 5 qualitative questions, and most of the rest are just kind of fill in the blank with the answer. What's your cumulative GPA? What's your major? Who are your references? That was a question that came up. You don't have to turn in a reference sheet or a cover letter, but there's a question asking who your references are. So make sure you get those things organized. If you haven't been advised to do so yet, make sure that you ask whoever you're going to list as a reference, if that's okay, and reach out to them, indicate that you're applying for one of these positions.
So do the postcards they receive also count as a reference?
Yeah, that's actually a separate question. So there's who are your references, and then did you receive a postcard from whom? So they're kind of 2 different things. Thanks for asking.
Interviews will be, for the most part, next week. At least for NSM and RA, there's both a group and an individual process. Most everything else, I think it's just individual.
Yep.
But keep that in mind. Most offices are most offices asking for a resume? I know we are. NSMs, I think, do.
I think as a rule of thumb, you want to prepare a resume. And just, if you haven't prepared one yet, it's a good challenge. It's something that you'll want to have. I don't think that you should be super scared about the resume portion, but it is part of why the student leader selection process exists, I would say, is to challenge you all to experience a selection process. Put together a resume, try out an interview, and we all want to give you feedback on those things.
All I always use the CDC as a reference too. Like that's their whole point existing is to help you with situations like this. So if you don't have a resume and you're not sure how to get started, go to the Career Development Center.
Definitely.
Shane's
Yeah.
Google it.
Yeah, and I honestly I love reviewing things like that, so if you want to, if you have questions that I can answer relatively quickly, I'm not an expert like the CDC, but most student affairs professionals or staff people on campus would be happy to do a quick review and give you some initial feedback.
Are there any questions? All right. Thanks, folks.
Thank you.
Alright, just two quick announcements. I did order pizza, but apparently there was a mistake, so I am sorry about that. But have a nice GA. What happened to next GA? Alright, next up, APAC will be presented in appeal for a conference.
Hi everyone, can everyone hear me? Yes. Okay, so for those who don't know, my name is Cam Trang. I'm the president of APAC, Asian Pacific American Coalition. This year we're going to the East Coast Asian American Student Union Conference, which is happening on February 21st and February 22nd at Harvard University in Boston. Recently we applied for the conference grant, which EAC has approved about $3,600 of the requested $6,400 some, which is about 55% of it. There are three components of the conference fund that we're looking for funding for. We have registration covered by APAC, which is about 1,000 some. For lodging, it's about $885. Right here, because we were unable to get rooms at the conference hotel, we got them at a different location with a friends and family benefit, which one of our connections had. Plane tickets, however, were a bit more iffy because we were unable to purchase 12 tickets at once, obviously, so we did it in groups of 2. The cost of tickets has risen, so it's a range of prices for each ticket from $320 to $360 some dollars. We'll be doing 2 different flight groups, so yeah, we have the total cost of the plane tickets would be $4,038.97, which is already over the amount that EAC has given us. We're asking for about $544 from EAC to bring the total conference fund amount to $4,144.81, which would be approximately $345 per person. That's only about $45 increase per person. We have already we will be utilizing our accumulated fundraising amount from past years that APAC has fundraised. That's about 1,300 some. And we have also put in a request for a challenge grant to increase that amount in order to provide for all students to be able to go to the conference in order to bring academic, professional, and personal development for each of them. This will be, for the majority of our students, their first conference, and because each of them have a personal investment in this, we believe it is like a great opportunity for all of them, and it will also expand the network that each of them have to the East Coast, and it will also be good for Hamlin because we will be bringing Hamlin to a more national scale in terms of Asian American or Asian identifying students. I think that's all I have right now.
Is there questions?
Yeah, so you put in a challenge grant request for $1,300, right?
Yep.
What will that money be used for?
Well, we're still covering lodging and hotel costs. We don't want to use all of our fundraising amount because if we do, then we don't have anything for in case our budget runs out. And we're already using our own budget for registration costs as well as covering for our trip coordinator.
Okay.
Does that answer your question?
Yeah.
Okay. Any other questions, Dan?
Can I ask, do you have your fundraise money like in your guys' own hands?
I'm not entirely sure. I
Okay,
think
because
is it in the budget?
your current posted budget is just over $4,400, but I've never received any deposits this year, so I'm not sure if the fundraising funds you're referring to are from previous years that are already in the account or.
Previous years of fundraising should have been put into the APAC account through the university because it was done through catering.
Okay.
So it's already in there, you're saying?
The majority of it. We have fundraised about 200, I think, this year.
Okay.
And just to clarify, your challenge grant, your fundraise money can only be from this academic year. It can't be from previous years, the amount that you're asking for.
Any other questions?
Can you explain how like going to the conference and from what they learned there, how that will kind of impact or benefit the greater Hamlin community?
Well, we would be increasing involvement into APAC, which is one of the chartered organizations of HUSC. I think that would help energize students, especially with spring semester coming, and with like there being kind of a stagnation of student leaders coming to APAC. I think it also brings more representation, more knowledge, and greater strength and identity for Asian identifying students, especially in a community where we're usually not represented as well. And I think that will benefit Hamlin because it's like part of the Hamlin mission where we say diversity, community, and all that.
Awesome, thank you.
Does that answer your question?
Yeah, that's great.
Anyone else have questions?
Yeah. You said you had a personal investment. Is that because you're paying, or just because like you're fundraising money? It's not because you're paying out of pocket, right?
We are paying out of pocket for each student is paying about $50.
Okay.
Yeah, but I meant like as our identity.
Okay.
That's what I meant. Because we all have, because we're going to a conference where we will be talking about issues that aren't generally talked about. That's what I mean.
Okay.
Melissa?
Has this money already, or has this already been booked already? Like everything
Yeah.
has already been? And how are you currently paying for it?
I think Bao Tao from the Hedgeman Center has it on her P card, so we'll just have to shift money and transfer funds soon.
I just have a question about how much each student would be paying out of pocket currently. From what I gathered from the report, it sounded like they're expected to pay $50 of the registration out of their own pocket, and then they'd be contributing towards ground transportation.
Yeah.
Do you have an estimate of how much ground transportation costs would be per person?
We're at a hotel about 10 minutes away from from Harvard, and so ground transportation shouldn't be too much. It should be like $10-15 per person at most. We will also be covering costs like personally for obviously food and that sort of stuff.
Okay. Thank you.
I just want, have you registered this yet with the Lacey and
So
student activities?
we were trying to figure everything out first. So we have partial, like I have the forms out and like filled out partially. I just haven't turned it in or anything. Any other questions? Thank you.
I wasn't like jogging down.
Alright, so this is the EAC defense slide. So this is just some general information about EAC. We haven't been hawkish with our conference funds. So as you can see, we spent more than what we have left, which is about where we want to be since we're in the second semester now. If you were to start overriding things in GA, that's going to limit our ability to really give funds to people when they request them, because now we have to worry about, well, if we give them this, are they just going to come and then try to get more, and then is that going to make it so that we like don't have enough anymore for other people? And another thing to note is that EAC has never fully funded a conference request, and so people always have to pay it out of pocket. Next slide. So as far as case specific, I want you to consider what the challenge, what challenges are really for, and that would be like people come to GA more if they feel like they've been treated unfairly rather than just because they want more money. EX job is to allocate funds, and if we aren't doing that correctly, that's really what the challenge is for. We did give them $3,600. That is $300 a person, and it is the second most we've given anyone this year. The first biggest was for 40 people, which is much more than they are taking. Part of the reason that it's costing so much is because they didn't plan far enough ahead. They weren't like super last minute or anything, but you know, EEC has to take that into account as well. People who plan really far ahead are more likely to get money than people who don't, and even if they don't, just because the costs are lower, then it is better for them. And EX decision was unanimous, and so you can talk to any of the members that are here, and they can give you reasons why we chose what we did, and they're all behind this. So, do you have anything to say?
Yeah, so part of the thing we consider when making decisions is like the per person cost, which we've already brought up several times. Typically that cost is between $200 to $300 per person is kind of like expected for them to have to pay on their own when they're going on the conference, and that varies some, like given the magnitude too, and like the amount of people going. But currently from the report that we've seen, their current cost would be about $125 per student, and then factoring in the amount we have already granted them, there'd only be an additional $45 per student, so it'd be under $200 total being paid per student out of their own pocket to go on this conference, and that's also considering money that they have fundraised and that they put in their budget through fundraise funds.
Questions?
That doesn't include the challenge grant that they had requested though, does it?
That did include.
That did
So
include.
the one they got right now, they would still have to pay under $200, which is no.
A lot of numbers are being thrown at me, so I'm just. So how much is APAC asking for now? Or how much more do they need?
There-
544.81 more.
Yeah.
500?
Yeah.
Okay. And we provided 3,600?
And if we gave them the full amount of challenge grant that they're eligible for, that'd be another 243. We'll be meeting Thursday to discuss that.
Another thing was the budget for the conference that was submitted today was different from the original conference fund that we approved, or the one that we had reviewed.
And that's different because of the plane tickets, right?
Yeah, plane tickets have increased because of like weather conditions and all planes or weather transportation has been like hitting a wall because of all the snow, everything's behind in schedule. Also because different hotels, we had like the one we were originally going to book has been booked completely. There's a wait list, so we decided to go for a different hotel. So we got that.
Other questions? Comments?
Yes, sorry, I had another thing to note. The original total requested amount was $6,500, and then it says the conference fund total this time around is $5,300, just over $5,300. Given that like the plane tickets cost more and the registration also went up to $85 from $55, I wasn't sure how this time the one that you presented earlier is less money than the original one, even though costs have gone up.
That was because we changed hotels and we got a different discount for that. We're changing like how we're doing registration, like more money is coming from APAC, more of it is coming from the students and from the original conference fund adequate request. It's also because we didn't include the cost of the van transportation from Hamlin to the airport, and we can cover like the original included ground transportation and this one did not.
Other questions?
I basically was gonna ask the same question, so.
Anything else? Sure.
I think this conference will be very beneficial for APAC, and giving them the opportunity to go somewhere and experience something like that will be very helpful. I understand the struggle with money and not having enough in the budget, so I just want everyone to think about the experience that APAC will be able to have, and they're part of HUSC, they're chartered through HUSC. Just want to
Lisa?
Yeah, so I have two things. When did you book the plane tickets?
Last Friday, after we got that amount from the conference fund allocate.
Okay. So, this is gonna sound really blunt, and I'm sorry it's not supposed to sound this way. But if you would have booked the plane ticket sooner and planned ahead, the cost would have probably not been as much for the plane tickets. So part of that is on the organization for planning ahead and getting things situated and all that type of thing. So I understand where EAC is coming from with, because if all student orgs waited till 2 weeks before the conference, could you imagine how much cost would increase? Same with registration. For out of pocket, you know, just for your own org, you know, how much that's costing your students for that.
We didn't register and buy plane tickets was because we were unsure if EAC would even approve of our conference fund request. We weren't sure if we would even be able to afford them.
Right, but you can always submit the conference request sooner as well.
Yeah.
The other thing is, as I agree with Shamara, the conference is very important for all students to go on conferences and learn more. It's unrealistic for HUSC to be able to fund all conferences that all student orgs go on. I'm worried about the precedent that this might set. If we fund your full conference, are other student orgs going to expect that we fund their full conference, and when the conference runs out, is it fair that we funded your full conference and another student org isn't even able to go at all because we don't have money to fund theirs at all? Do you know what I'm saying, the trade-off there? So I agree this is very important for you guys to go, and I understand the financial burden. It's also, is it fair that we allocate all our resources to one organization and maybe not have enough for another org later on?
Part of that is we have three organizations represented, like APAC, HSA, SOSA, SFT, actually 4 organizations that will be like participating kind of in this organization because APAC is a pan-Asian organization. We're covering like for other.
So are the other orgs also participating in monetary funds?
So they're participating as in like board like members.
Okay, right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Dawn, tomorrow was the other hand.
The Dawn.
Dawn, and then tomorrow. And then.
Yeah, I'd just like to say that I think this is a great opportunity for this organization to go to this conference and for us to come up with $544 because they can go to the conference and come back and kind of debrief us, where it has twinkly lights, and do anything for us. So I think that we should take care of these people.
That's a different fund though. That's the.
That's irrelevant. Just
No, that isn't.
Yeah.
Okay, so tomorrow was the other hand.
APAC is covering some of the costs, correct?
Yep.
Okay. Just wanted to make that.
So Jake, and then Victoria, and then Jack.
I have a question of how much money would be left in the conference fund, and what percentage of that, or what percentage of the total budget would be left?
Sure.
This
Oh,
one?
yeah.
Yeah.
So we have, right now we have 43% left, and it's, the $500 is not, what's 500?
Maybe
17,000.
about 16,700 left if we approved more. And another thing I wanted to bring up is that the amount we already approved them for was just under 1/4 of the total amount of money left in the entire fund was given to one organization.
Really, what we gave them is very generous, and I would just really ask you to trust your EAC committee in this decision.
Okay, Victoria and Taylor.
I would like to point out that APAC has not attended a conference in the past year, and part of that is because the Midwest conference is not as professional and is not as beneficial to the students. I went on ICASU my first year here, and I found it to be very, very beneficial. It was much more professional and much more challenging, professionally and personally. And so the fact that APAC has fundraised for the past 2 years to be able to put money towards this conference, I think it's a very important conference to fund a little bit more. Also, there was one other point, but I forgot it, so I'm going back to you.
Taylor, and then Alyssa.
So this is kind of like a general question, but how many conference requests do we typically get in a semester from different orgs? Like just kind of a ballpark.
It varies year to year, but like,
How many did we get
if I had
last
to pick an
semester?
average, it'd probably be 20.
20. I just wanted to like put perspective on.
Alyssa?
I have 2 questions. One, how big is the APAC budget apply for?
I don't know off the top of my head.
Yes.
Maybe what's their actual budget?
Yeah.
Originally,
Yeah.
we asked for like 6,000 for it.
No, not for the conference request, but like when you do your budgeting each spring, how much,
I
like
think we have like 4,000.
4,000? Okay. That just was putting perspective in my head. Second question is, do you guys plan to do this conference every year?
No, probably not.
Okay. For the future, if you know you're gonna wanna do a conference like this, you can always put it into that spring budget that like you applied for and be like, we're planning on going to this conference. So you'll know ahead of time. You don't have to wait for EAC to approve something. You'll be able to just apply in ahead too if you want.
Victoria?
Last year, our treasurer, yeah, I don't
Okay.
know what happened there.
Victoria and Sarah.
I remember what I was gonna say. Like we are asking people to put in $50 out of pocket. We could ask more of the people who are attending, but to ask people who are already struggling to come here to pay for their books, it's unrealistic to ask them to put in more money to be able to benefit themselves and create more opportunities to grow professionally and to grow personally. And for people who have historically been disadvantaged in having their voices heard and in having their experiences validated, I think it's very important that everybody who has plane ticket at this point to be able to go without further expenses to themselves.
Sarah and then Alyssa.
What is your plan if the budget does not get approved, if the extension does not get approved?
Just fundraise alone.
Okay.
Somehow. We'll cover more with the APEX budget.
Alyssa?
So, I just took the remaining conference 17,000 divided by this average, the guesstimate for how much conference requests we get in, and it'd become $850 for each conference request that we would have, which is far, far less than what they're getting right now. So just keep that in mind when you're doing the perspective of the 3,600 compared to every other conference request. On average, we get 850 then.
Anything else? Is there a motion?
Motion to vote on increasing APAC's conference fund request by $544.81.
Is there a second?
Second.
Sarah? Alright, because this is appeal, we need 2/3 votes of the people present. There's 22 people present on the roll call, so we need 14 votes for this to pass. So can you
Alyssa Hine,
No.
Jenny,
I abstain unless there's a
Tie.
tie.
okay. I abstain as well. Jan Molitor,
No.
Sarah Huddleston,
No.
La Tao,
Abstain.
Alex Abraha,
Yes.
Lincoln Schmidt,
No.
Taylor Riddell,
Abstain.
Don Allen,
Yes.
Jake Blanchett,
No.
Kimberly.
She's not here.
Oh, she left? Okay, so that changes.
So this will be
No.
no.
Okay, Fatima,
Abstain.
Jasmine,
Abstain.
Elizabeth, Lauren, Shamara, Casey,
Abstain.
Ashley, Logan,
No.
Ian,
No.
Sisson.
Yes.
Is there anyone who is a voting member who is not called?
Can I just say something? Not regards to this, but abstain should only be used in dramatic situations when you absolutely cannot vote for, like Jenny, like she can't vote. So for the future, it's really important that everyone votes because those abstains, many people may have been leaning towards the yes side, so the vote could have come out differently. So for the future, make sure you vote.
Can we change our vote then?
No,
Okay.
but for the future, it's very important that people vote.
Alright, and 4, 2, 8, and 9 abstained. The appeal does not pass. I'm showing this already, guys. Next up, we have bylaws presented by Sarah.
So basically in this first section, it's just, like the phrasing of things, didn't sound very basically. One of the big ones was business office isn't actually an office on campus, it's called the accounting office. That's just something that was left over from like 12 years ago when it was called the business office and was then changed. So just mostly some clerical things. What was subdivision 5 is, what was it? Yeah, it's just not relevant anymore. In past years, like a long time ago, it required the vice president or president to sign it. But from like the university's point of view, I'm like the official budget authority for all the HUSC accounts, so they could sign it all they want, but it doesn't matter without my signature, and like their signature doesn't do anything, so it's basically irrelevant. Is that all in that section? Yeah. And then yeah, just throughout a changing business office to accounting office. And then the last section was inter-budgetary transfers. This just called for whenever we transferred funds from account to account that the AC had to be aware of it. But since that's like a regular like accounting procedure, like when we're paying back different departments, like that type of transfer happens like maybe 10 times a week at a minimum. So it's not something where it's like we're moving money from accounts. Just like the money has already been approved by the EAC committee. It's just actually going to where we said it would go to. So there's no need for a second approval from him. Again, since I'm like the budget authority, I'm the only one who needs to sign off on account moving from account to account. So,
Does anyone have any questions, comments, concerns? Okay. Is there a motion?
Motion to vote on this bylaw amendment.
Second.
Oh my god. Second,
Oh,
someone.
Motion to bring it back to matters.
Oh shit. Shoot, sorry. Did someone motion?
Yeah, motion.
Second.
Okay, so there's a motion on the floor to bring it to the tag. All in favor? Opposed? Motion passes. This will be sent to PAC. And you have another one.
Yes, one more. And this one we can vote on to approve. So at the beginning of the year, Kate, if you remember at all, presented some bylaw changes. One of them was the alcohol funding policy, but it was not worded correctly, so we changed it. So we just took out most of the wording and changed it to all HUSC chartered organizations that plan events using student funds must abide by the university's alcohol policy. Yes.
Correct me if I'm wrong, Dean Sickberg, but any student organization having alcohol at their event, no matter if they're using student funds or not, must apply by the university's alcohol policy. So no matter if they're using funds or not,
Correct.
they have to follow.
Approved by a process.
Yeah. So the using student funds doesn't really matter if they're using student funds or if they're not using student funds. They still have to abide by university's alcohol policy. So all HUSC chartered orgs, all HUSC chartered orgs must abide by the university alcohol policy. So.
But wouldn't that be a little bit confusing since some orgs are not going to read this ever because they're not charged by us?
What?
Like, I think the people that would read the HUSC bylaws and stuff like that would be only chartered orgs, right?
Yeah, but no matter what, they have, like, no matter, any student group must abide by the university alcohol policy, no matter what HUSC says or not.
Right, but this is just HUSC chartered organizations that they're talking about.
Yeah, they still have to abide by the university alcohol policy.
Right, I know.
Even if they're using student funds or not. The using student funds doesn't matter.
Okay. Take it out.
Right, Dean Sickberg? Yeah.
I don't have the alcohol policy in front of me, but if, like you said, even if they were allowed to have it, they still have to apply it.
Yeah.
Be approved.
Even if they
Right.
weren't using.
Yeah, no, I get that. I'm just saying like, the bylaws are for HUSC chartered orgs.
Right.
So
The HUSC
So
chartered.
it wouldn't matter, essentially.
Does that make sense?
Like we.
So it doesn't matter, like Jenny was saying, like if other organizations see it, they would be confused, but it,
Oh, you're
our
saying it should be
bylaws-
all organizations? or all student groups?
Well, our bylaws don't govern
Right.
non-chartered
So I think it should say
organizations.
how it is.
Okay.
Right?
Yes.
I think we're
I
arguing
think
the same
or-
thing.
Yeah, I think we're thinking the same thing, we're just wording it differently. Okay.
But you do fund non-chartered organizations at times.
For like
For-
a different
Yeah.
fund.
Because conferences can be.
But there's other provisions in the bylaws for organizations
just
applying
like
to
it's
fund
not-
preventable alcohol, so.
Okay, so is everyone okay with this, or do you want us to bring it back to PAC and talk about it more to clarify? Is there a motion on the,
Motion to vote on the bylaw.
As is.
As is.
Second.
All in favor? No opposed? Motion passes. This will be changed and updated at the website for involved.
Yep.
Sweet. Yes, so now we're gonna talk about elections. We were originally supposed to have a forum, but today we're just doing GA. If we don't have time, I'm okay with moving this to next week. Alyssa?
When's the 17th? Oh, okay. That's when packets are due, correct?
So this is opportunity to, if you have questions about reapplying to representative, reapplying to be VP or president, this is your chance to ask. No questions?
I want to make a statement. If any of you want to be on the executive board next year, it's always good to apply for a representative because it shows the new president and vice president that you are interested in HUSC no matter if you're going to be on the executive board or not. And secondly, it's a good backup plan if you happen to not get the executive board seat you were looking for, you can still be involved in other ways. So it's always good to apply as a representative just to show your interest to the new incoming people and your dedication.
Also, if you're wanting to like apply for other like student leadership positions through the process that was mentioned earlier, you can still almost always be on HUSC, especially as like a representative, even if you hold another leadership position on campus. So that's just something to consider.
In fact, it looks
Taylor,
really good on applications if you are, especially for like, I use the NSMs as an example, but they want people from very diverse backgrounds who bring a lot to the table. So being part of HUSC makes you look really good, not just because it's like a status thing, but because of the skills and experiences that you've learned here and being able to translate them into your new roles.
And I think, I think just being a house, you learn more things unintentionally about Hamlin that are changing or are happening, rather if you weren't involved. So,
If you're looking to also be an NSM or an RA or whatever, a lot of times you can be on the executive board of HUSC and that other position, not that this has any elections have anything to do with the executive board, but just for your information that if you're like, oh my gosh, I can't choose, you can do both.
anything else?
If you know people who you think would be good at it, maybe be sure to like let them know and not nominate them, but give them the necessary information. One, if they're not looking for it because they don't know to look for it, or two, just because they don't have the confidence in themselves to know that they would be good for it. So make sure that you're informing you're recognizing your friends if you think that they've got qualities that would be beneficial for HUSC or any other thing.
Yeah, no matter if they have experience in that position or not or know about it, if you think someone's gonna be a really good advocate for your peers or whatnot, make sure you tell them, hey, I think you'd be great at this. It's also a good compliment for your friend,
Jasmine, what has been the best part about being a representative? What has been the best part about being a representative?
I guess would be just having insight about what's going on in our school, being more involved, it's just being like an average student, most people don't know what we do on campus, so what's really going on, so like, it's nice just knowing and informing other students.
How about you, Lily?
Probably about the same. You kind of stole mine. The feeling of being involved is nice. Like, being in EAC and like seeing how things work, which kind of relates back to Jasmine's idea, but you know, like seeing how things work with that, and like, you know, kind of like a feeling of being like the hub of, you know, like the students at Hamlin.
You should say that in the profile, Cindy.
Anything else you guys want to add or share or ask? Just encourage people, please, because then next year we will have a harder time finding applicants. It's much easier to do this now. So yeah. Anything else? No? Yeah. Some special topics that's going to be going on. The formal debate is the 24th. So it'll be in here, and then the formal debate will be in the later night. The solicitors coming March 3rd. The presidential address is March 10th. It's usually in Sundin Hall unless they change it this year. March 17th, Metro Transit will become. April 21st, we have a trustee forum, and April 28th, Wesley Center will come talking about their department. Something I missed?
Feel like it, but I can't think of it right now, so.
Well, I'll let you know. And just announcements, the Holcomb Journal is still accepting submissions, so if you have a picture, a drawing, a story, a poem, anything goes, anything that's creative, it has to be your original, you can't submit somebody else's, work. But definitely go to Drew Science and you can find more information about that, so, or you can just email them. Also just encourage people to apply for the Wesley's boards or apply yourself. You can nominate staff faculty as well, so. Yeah, any other announcements you guys want to make?
Next Tuesday and Wednesday during like 11 to 1, there will be attorneys in the Anderson Center who are there to answer any questions about students who are having issues with their landlords, their leases, anything that's on the off campus where you're right now struggling and need some help. Free advice about what you can do and how you can do it. So the NSMs from the off-campus group is, I think, are going to have more information out about that, but spread the word so that people, if they need that help, and we've heard that there are people who do, that they can take advantage of that.
Other announcements?
It's Black History Month, and I think we have some Pride members here. Do you guys want to talk about Black History Month and your events?
This week there's an event on Thursday at the intergenerational panel on like the overcoming cultural barriers, and it'll be in Anderson 304 from 4 to 5 p.m. I mean, you want to talk about the one next week?
Yeah, we have a documentary. It's Mr. Civil Rights. It's about Thurgood Marshall, and it's on next Tuesday, February 17th at 6:30. I believe that's also in Anderson. A lot of our events are in Anderson.
Yeah, and then afterwards, on the 20th, there will be Culture Night, Anderson Sundin Hall, and then
That's at 7.
that's 7. And you want to speak on Black Jeopardy?
Oh, Black Jeopardy is, let's see. Black Jeopardy, I will be guest appearing. That's at 6:30. That's at 6:30. Also in Anderson. It's like regular Jeopardy, but about Black history, trivia stuff. And also with the documentary, the person who directed that is a Hamlin alum, and they will be making a guest appearance. So, yeah.
And then there's one final event. It's Soul Food Night, but to attend, you have to RSVP through the Hedgeman Center, and lots of fun, lots of food.
Yeah.
Oh, and that's on the 20th, or March 1st, sorry.
March 1st, yeah. At 6.
So yeah, if you have any announcements just for future reference, you can send them to me and I'll put them on my slide shows. But yeah, is there a motion?
Motion to adjourn the meeting.
Second?
I think seconds to
Favor?
adjourn.
Roll call? So it doesn't pass.